Virginia Lindsay of Ginger Cake Patterns and Design, and today I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to transform this beautiful bag into this, which is not perfect but much better. So the reason I'm doing this is I've been using this bag for years, embarrassingly. At the store, I take it and I put like my cold stuff in there when I grocery shop. Yes, it's a Budweiser bag that was given to us free. Like, I think we had a party and bought a case of beer, and I mean, it's been like 5 or 6, maybe even 8 years that I've been taking this to the grocery store. I know that's super embarrassing, but I've been wanting to transform it myself into a bag I like a lot better. And I've actually started this project a bunch of times, and I made that video last week or 10 days ago about the habits and getting better, and I decided I was just going to go ahead and make this bag. I didn't need to get so complicated. I didn't need to choose the perfect fabrics. I just needed a functioning bag to take to the grocery store that didn't have Budweiser written all over it and wasn't falling apart on the inside. So this is the result, and it's kind of fun because I didn't practice this bag beforehand. I'm going to show you how I planned it out and how I put it together. And it didn't turn out perfect, but I still really like it. I think it's going to be super functional for me. This part is what didn't turn out perfect, but I think once I stack my cold things in there, it's going to be really cute. Also, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online platform. It has over 25,000 classes for creatives, and I've been doing it now for about 6 months, and I'm really having a great time with it. And right now I'm starting to take an embroidery class, and I know I mentioned my knitting class last time, and that did go really well. I actually didn't get my knitting done yet though, so I'm hoping to show it to you guys next time. But so I wanted to show you the embroidery class I'm taking. I do like doing embroidery already, and this class is going to make it better. This is so cute. So stay tuned to watch this real quick, and then I'm going to show you how I made this. When you begin a Skillshare class, there's always a task to complete, and this one is this totally adorable cactus design, which I can't wait to make. My daughter loves cactuses. I think this will be a really cute gift for her. And she chose, like, I already thought I knew how to make a French knot, but she makes them so much better. So I can't wait to try that. And so we want to make 2020 the year that you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's online classes. And then when you sign up with my link below, it's free for 2 months, and then it's less than $10 a month after that. Which is a really great deal for this amazing resource and community. The first thing I'm going to do is take measurements of this and recreate it with my fabrics here. So I chose this laminated cotton that I've used before. I had it on as a tablecloth, so it's being repurposed. And then I'm just going to use simple cotton on the inside. And I know some people might choose to use a laminated cotton on the inside or a vinyl or something, but I kind of like just using cotton when I make lunch boxes and different things, because I can just put it in the wash, and I prefer that to wiping everything down. I know that's different, and then I'm also going to use my my insulated batting here. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to take some measurements, and I'm going to write down everything here on my paper. Okay, here are all my measurements. They were up here, and I can write these down below for you. But basically, I used my plexiglass ruler, and I took the measurements. These are the actual measurements, and these are the measurements with the seam allowance added in, and then also the handles, which I measured from the Budweiser case. And then here's how I'm going to construct it. It's not exactly like the original one was constructed, but I don't want to have to do a bunch of, if you can see in this one, they have this seam binding at the bottom, and I don't want to do that. It would take too long. So this is how I'm going to construct it. The change I made was, because I don't want to add a zipper to the top, I'm going to make the top, this piece, which is going to be the top, that's going to flip over, you'll see at the end, is going to be a little longer, and that is going to be 11 11.5 by 11.5. So now I'm going to begin, and some of this is going to, this like layering and cutting is going to be done off screen because this would take forever if otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all these pieces out and all the layers and then come back. So that is going to be done off screen, but I'll be right back. Okay, real quick, I've already sewn the other, I've already basted. Basting is just like doing a stitch close to the edge so that you know, so that your piece, when you're doing a bunch of layers together, they're together more firmly. So I wanted to show you real quick before I sewed this last one, before I basted the layers. On top I have my, what's going to be my exterior fabric, and this is a laminated cotton. That's why the shininess. And then I have a piece of interfacing. This is called stabilizer interfacing. It doesn't fuse, and it's Pellon 40. I'll put that in the notes down below. And then I have my pieces of insulbrite batting. Okay, so those 3 layers, and then I'm going to baste all around the outside perimeter here, close to the edge, like an 1/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm doing that on all the exterior pieces. So off screen, I basted all the pieces together, and now I'm going to prep the exterior pieces that are like, I'm going to put the handles on, and I'm going to put the Velcro on. I've decided to do a Velcro instead of zipper because that's going to be a lot faster, onto the top. And so we're going to do that real quick. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm not adding interfacing to any of the lining pieces except for the base. So I go ahead and cut, where's that base piece? Here's the base. And go ahead and cut one piece of interfacing or stabilizer for the base. And then just because we want a little extra something down there at the bottom. And then the rest of them, though, are just the pieces cut out that we discussed before, and then I'm going to put down in the description. And so right now the first thing we're going to do is work on the what's going to be the lid, and that is an 11 by 11 square. And we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance here on this because it needs to be a little bit smaller than the piece we're going to attach it to on the back. So usually I do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but here on the lid I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to sew these right sides together. Also, I don't know if you saw this before, but I labeled all the pieces so that I wouldn't get them mixed up. And I just use painter's tape, which is not very tacky at all, but sticks pretty well, so it can come off without any kind of residue left. But so this says top or lid, and then here is the lining piece, and I'm going to sew these right sides together just on these 3 sides. And then I'm going to attach the Velcro. Okay, I want to show you all the things I kind of did off camera. I prepared the lid, and I did that like I showed you by doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And then I trimmed the corners. Whoops. I trimmed the corners, and then I turned it inside out, and I pressed it nice and flat. Then I top stitched all around the 3 sides. And finally, I put this piece of Velcro. It is a 7-inch piece of Velcro. I centered it down here about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom, and I sewed that all around. Now, it might have been smarter, and so I have this on the outside. It might have been smarter to do that on the lining piece before I put it all together, but I was a little bit like, I kind of wanted the extra stability. Although in hindsight, it probably, I mean, if you're doing it, I would do it before. So that's all prepared. The other 2 things I did, well, 3 things really. This is going to be the front piece, and I sewed the opposite piece of Velcro on here, and I sewed that centered. It's a 7-inch by 1 inch piece of Velcro, and I sewed that centered, and I did it about 1 inch from the top. Okay, and then I put these 2 pieces of, I sewed the 2 handles on, And this is like, this is called webbing, and this is a polyester webbing. And it's black. I kind of thought that would coordinate, and I had it laying around. But you can make your own handles. They need to be 1 inch by 20 inches is what I did. I wrote down 19 up there, but I went ahead and went for 20. And the way that I put these on was I used this. This is called Fray Check. You can see it right there, Fray Check. And you can buy it. It's like a couple dollars. You can get it at Walmart or at Joanns or order it online. I'll put a link down below. And I actually use this quite a bit. And it's very useful specifically for things like this. And I put a pretty good amount of Fray Check all along this edge here on both sides, just to make sure that this didn't fray. And I did it here and here. So on all 4 corners, all 4 edges of the webbing. Then I marked with my chalk. I marked up 1 inch right here. So if you can kind of see, I had a piece I had a marking just like that. I'll bring it up closer. So I had that marked, and then I used my ruler again, and I marked. I kind of centered it 12 inches, and I put it about in between. Like if you put it right to the side, it's 2 inches in, and 2 inches in over there too. So I'm going to put all this down in the description for you, or I might even make a blog post and put a link to that, because this is a little, these are some numbers you're going to want to know. And then I went over to my machine and I sewed these on. And I used white thread to show you. I could have switched over to black, but here's a fun little trick. If you do happen to use white thread on something like this and you don't like how that looks, one thing you can do is take a Sharpie or a fabric marker and just color over it. And then those kind of messy little things don't show up anymore. Isn't that cool? So now you can see what that looks like. Pretty nice compared to that one, right? Okay, so I'm going to color all those in. And then we're going to start putting the body pieces together. Okay, now we're going to put the exterior together. And this is this way of doing it I learned when I made my Art Caddy sewing pattern. And it's a really nice way to create a nice little boxy shape. So what I did was, again, I took my fabric marker, and this is never going to be seen on the outside, and I drew this box about 1/4 inch, or so on the inside of this. This is the base piece. Okay, so I drew that box around. And now I'm just going to go over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew these two together first. But I'm not going to sew all the way to the edge, you guys. I'm going to back stitch right here, sew across, and back stitch right there. And then I'm going to do the same on this one to right here. So if you can see, I'm going to start here. I'm going to line these up properly. I'm going to start here and go and back stitch. Okay, so I'm not sewing all the way to the edge. And then once I've done that, once I have these two attached, I'm going to do the same with this is the back piece, and this is that front piece with the Velcro sewed on. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to sew, still working on this side that has my line drawn on it, start here and sew. And what this does is it just makes, you have these nice corners, these nice boxy corners. So I'm going to do all that, and I'm going to come back, and then we're going to talk about how to sew the sides up. Okay, I sewed it all together, and one thing you can see is, since we didn't go all the way to the edge, it's going to be really easy to sew up these sides. They just fold really nicely together, and you just start right there again, not all the way at the edge, right there, and sew up the sides. So you're going to, instead of having a mark, you're going to start right there where the other seams ended, see? So, do your clips or pins, or just hold it together and sew up all 4 sides now. 4 sides. Okay, I'm so excited. It's coming together really well. I'm kind of nervous about putting the lid on, that it won't fit. But so when you're sewing these sides up, a good thing to do is kind of hold these tips together, like the top. So you kind of hold it together and you sew down, or you can sew from either way. but kind of holding this together so it comes together and you don't have a like an overlap there is a good way to do it. Now you can sew all the way to the top of this edge. You just stop right at that corner again, so that this is all, so you kind of have a three-way little opening right there, and nothing is kind of folded over and stressed. But that makes a great little boxy shape. So I'm going to turn it inside out so you can see it. I think it has some good shape here. Yeah, pretty cute. Okay, and now to put the lid on, it's gonna kind of go on like this. Like that. I don't know, the lid might be the not good part. But I'm going to attach it to, the way I'm going to put the lid on is I'm just going to baste it on right here. So this is the back. I even have it labeled still, back. And the lid is going to go right sides facing with the Velcro corner down low. And I'm going to just sew that across. Okay, and then the exterior will be done for now. And we're going to make the lining after I sew this across. And I'll show you how to do the lining. Okay, I made my first kind of error where I had to bring out my seam ripper. I went ahead and moved the Velcro up at about a little less than half an inch, because it was just too low. I kept kind of messing around with this lid, putting it over, and it just wasn't fitting. So now that's up a 1/4 inch, and I'll have put that in the directions. So hopefully you caught that before. But now I'm going to put the lining together, and I'm actually going to do it the same exact way as before. Instead of that dark marker, I use this kind of coordinating light marker. I don't know, just because I was thinking it might show through, even though it's not going to. So this is the base piece, and remember I went ahead and I did put a piece of stabilizer on the base piece. And this isn't attached. I'm just kind of I'm just going to kind of layer them together. You could base that like we did with all those thick layers, but I don't really think it's necessary at this time. So I'm just going to go over to my machine and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to sew the sides on first, the two sides, and then the front and back. But the difference is I need to leave an opening to turn the bag all inside out. So I think I'm going to do that right after I put all the bottom part. The bottom is all going to be attached, and then we're going to put the opening in one of the sides. I'll be right back. Okay, I actually just went ahead and sewed up the whole thing because this is sort of a big project, and we needed to move along. And it was exactly like the other one. So the only difference was I left this opening right here. And it's about a 6-inch opening on one of the sides. Just like you normally do, you come in, you backstitch, leave the opening, start over, backstitch. So now I'm going to put it all together. And I'm going to put the exterior inside the interior, or the lining, and line it up here. Doesn't matter which way it goes together. What does matter is that you get these corners all together. Now I took really good measurements, and I double checked, just like you should have done, to make sure that your seams all line up. If you have some problems, just go back and make this lining seam a little bigger or a little smaller. I wouldn't go around and mess with the exterior, because there's so many layers and it's a lot harder to pick out those seams. So mine is a pretty good fit. This is where my iron messed up a little bit. And I'm just going to take my clips or pins. I'm using clips because of this, mostly clips because of this exterior, like the laminated cotton. It makes holes in it. But so I'm just going to clip right here at the corners and clip all around, and then sew the entire top. So I'll be right back. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, all clipped, so you can see. And now I just at my machine, I'm going to sew right along here. It's going to be about a 3/8 of a seam allowance all the way around the entire top, okay, around this whole perimeter. And when you kind of come to these corners, just pause and use your fingers to press out the seams on both sides. and that kind of makes your corners lay a little nicer. Okay, and then we're going to turn it all inside out, and top stitch around the top is the last step. Now I'm just going to use that opening to pull it inside out, or right side out. So that was plenty. 6 inches was a good size. And here we go. I can take off these little labels now. So my biggest concern is that it will be like, it won't have enough shape. And that could be fixed probably with more, more interfacing and stuff. But since most frozen foods go in and they're very boxy, I'm feeling like, I think it'll be okay. Or the frozen bags, and there we go. That turned out pretty great. Let's see if the lid fixes. So, okay, I'm going to press it, if you can see. I'm going to press it and top stitch around the top. It's hard to see from this angle, I'm sorry. Okay, and then I'm going to show you the final product. Okay, so I top stitched the top of the bag, and that's sort of a challenge, honestly, because this is a lot of layers. So I would suggest using a heavyweight fabric, like a heavyweight needle, like a denim needle, and going nice and slow. I did have to fix some stitching I made, like the fabric got kind of gathered in my top stitching around the top. So I would go back and fix that if I were to do that again. But in the end, I think it turned out really cute. It's going to be nice for me to take to the store. I wouldn't use it like to hold cold stuff for a picnic for a whole day, and I have real coolers for that. But I think this will be great for me to take to the store, and it can hold my cold things. But I think it's really nice. And if you'd like to make one, please do. Leave me some comments about what you liked about this and seeing the process, and maybe it'll show you how you can kind of make your own patterns pretty easily. Just go for it sometimes. And then you get the results you want are not exactly perfect, but pretty good and functional. And that's a big reason we're doing bags in the first place. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing more tutorials soon, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.